play baseball.
If you don't want to play baseball, what do you want to play?
I don't know, sack it. Damn. Look at those rings. Rex must be the richest guy in Gotham. Is it made of real gold?
No, Benny. It's just paint.
That'll be something, though, huh?
I'm sorry. Get him up. Get his ass up. Been waiting all week.
Hey, we should come back later.
Rex!
Jackie boy, that's you? Shit. Fucking Popeye over here. Come here.
Hey, stay here with Benny, man. I don't want you getting involved.
Hey, fellas. You remember Francis Cobb's son? They joined the ROTC. Be a hero, ain't that right?
Yeah.
What you got for me? How's your mom doing?
Sorry.
Give her my regards.
Hey, Rex. Nice to see you.
Hey, Lewis.
Hey, good. How are you? Look at those guys.
Yeah, I got a lot going on. I got a lot of ADD going on in the background. Oh, and here, oh man, we're gonna get to those, but man, thank you for this. Like, I've been a fan forever, and I'm not even gonna make a dent in your filmography. It's so like it's so. I said, you know what? Let me get the ones that hit me hardest, and we'll go from there. So, how have you been? How have you been? I know you said you're a dad.
Yeah.
How do you like being a dad? I mean, because yesterday I had an interview with an actor in the show and we were just talking about fatherhood for like ever.
Yeah, we could talk a lot about that.
How do you like being a dad, Lewis?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I've been a dad for a while, and it's good. You said you have a couple kids yourself?
Yeah, but I'm an older dad, and I got a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old.
So, okay, yeah.
And you and I are both Gen Xers. Like,
yeah.
You know, if IMDb is right, I was born in '73. I think you're a '70s baby too.
Yeah.
But man, we grew up in the greatest time period.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I see the posters behind you. Got the.
Yeah, we grew. You know,
yeah, no.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it was last summer I showed the kids started watching the Rocky movies.
Wow.
I've got 3 kids. I got 2 boys who are 13 and 11 now, and so they're getting into all the, they're starting to be able to watch like all the stuff that, that's really fun to watch.
That's the perfect age, 11, 13.
Yeah.
You could introduce them to so much and have them understand it. Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
It's exciting. It's a fun thing. You're going to get there soon, I guess.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope. What do your kids think of their dad? That's this wonderful actor doing so many eclectic projects.
I don't think they think of it. I don't think they think of it all that much. I think they, I don't know. They haven't seen too much of the stuff that I've been in because most of it's not appropriate for the age they're at. But no, it's just. I guess we'd have to ask them. They've been to the theater when I'm rehearsing a play, or they've come to see. My oldest son saw me do a play. It was a Shakespeare play, so that was I think he probably slept through half of it. And
Shakespeare's amazing, though. It's hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's also So they have a sense of what goes on. And they're actually both going to do a play reading with me in a couple weeks in New York. So that's going to be an exciting thing. Yeah. My older son's going to be is going to act in it, and my younger son he's a pianist, and he's going to do a little music for it.
They got to be somewhat impressed, Lewis, because they're following you. They're following you down this path.
But they don't know it. They don't know that. They're just doing stuff that's fun, I think, right there.
They'll figure it out. It's funny that you mentioned that when you said, some are inappropriate. I was going to say, I have a feeling you are an amazing dad in real life, but your on-screen character should not be within 500 feet of children.
Exactly.
There's so many roles where it's like, it's so disturbing, but you're so goddamn good. It's so scary. Yeah, thanks. It's so scary. So a few things. So I was watching an interview, and I think I heard this right. It says you grew up in Alaska. Is that wrong?
Yeah.
Am I?
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was born in Pittsburgh, and a few months after I was born, my family moved to California. We were in California for a little while, and basically my father got laid off.
Yeah.
And we were sort of, I mean, I don't know, I was just enjoying the beach or whatever, but my parents were kind of spinning their wheels, and then an opportunity came up in Alaska. And my father actually was in the Air Force, and he had spent some time in Alaska when he was in the service, and so he wasn't as daunted as maybe some other people might have been by the opportunity.
Yeah.
So he thought, okay, I know what it's like up there. We can do it, and so we moved up there, and I was there for about 6 years, and then we moved to the Seattle area. So a lot of
how old were you when you were there, Lewis? How old were you there?
From about the age of 2 to 8. Yeah.
Wow. How did you like? Do you remember? I mean, it's a while ago. 2 is a tough memory, but how do you remember Alaska? How do you remember it?
I think I have a real child's eye view of it. I remember it being a amazing place. We were, I feel like we lived outside, although of course we couldn't have, but there was like a pack of kids in the neighborhood. We all sort of just ran around together. It must have been the summertime. And then, we did all kinds of, there was all, I think it still is kind of populated by people who are, mostly just, or a lot of whom were just there, for an opportunity of some kind, but also who just have their own, sort of follow the beat of their own drum.
Right.
And so, we had a lot of interesting friends, and, we would go out and do, go out on like little, take a week and go out into the wilderness.
Yeah.
We had friends who would take us up, and I remember going up in one of my dad's friends had a Cessna, going up and doing, things like that. But they mostly, they're memories that probably have a bit of a sheen on them because I was a kid and everything was new.
Yeah. Speaking of being a kid, so we mentioned, we're both 70s kids. Is there a movie or is there a actor that like Lewis really hits you hard where you're like, oh my God, this is it? I'm sure there's many, but like, was there one in particular?
There were, but the 2 movies that were the first ones that had a big influence on me were the first movie I saw in the theater was Duck Soup, Marx Brothers Duck Soup.
That's right. That's a classic. Yeah.
And that was, for whatever reason, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. My parents had taken me to see something else, but I guess because in Alaska, actually, that they sometimes didn't get the reels,
Yeah.
And so that was what they had. And so they showed that instead of whatever we were going to see. And I don't know if I actually embarrassed them or if it was just cute, but I apparently laughed so hard that, everybody else in the theater was kind of
laughing at your laugh. Yeah. That's the best kind of person to be around.
So that was like a big, and then at some point in my childhood, when VCRs started, we got a copy of that movie. I watched that movie a lot. And the other big one was The Never-Ending Story. Did you ever see that movie?
Oh yes, the big white dog.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah. So that movie I probably watched 100 times.
Yeah, there's a where I run on conservation land, and I put it all back on with beer afterwards anyway. But like when I run, there's this white dog. He's huge, and every time I walk by it, I go, "There's the Never-Ending Story dog." It's just that movie is like an instant trigger for tears. Like that.
Yeah, it's a sweet movie.
Yeah. Boy, do we grow up in some special times.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was kind of not surprised, but it's one of those things like, that the fact that you are your father-in-law is Sam Waterston, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's my. I mean, for those listening, meeting you for the first time, obviously, this is not something new to you. But like for those listening, that's a pretty fun fact, no?
Yeah, it is. I mean, in some ways, it's just happenstance. I mean, I met his daughter. We were in college together doing a play, and her father came to one of the performances, and I met him, and afterwards I said, "Oh man, it's so funny. Your dad looks just like the guy from I'll Fly Away. Did you ever see I'll Fly Away?"
Another movie that's a heart tugging.
It was like one of those things, and she was like, yeah, I saw it, but she didn't like say anything more. And because I was a West Coast kid, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I didn't know names of people or anything like that. I didn't think any more of it. And then, later on we had some, not to get too into the details, but at some point later on, I visited her home. Okay. I was invited to her home, and it was only then that I think I really understood, because I saw a poster, a framed, Sam did a famous production of Hamlet at the Public Theater.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great poster. I can't remember the name of the artist who did the poster, but there's a fantastic poster. It's kind of iconic of just Sam's big head shouting, as Hamlet. And that poster was on the, there was a copy of that framed on the wall, and I was like, oh, wait a second. And then I kind of understood. You
put it together, yeah.
I put it together. I was young, and I was interested in other things. In the when was that, late 90s, early 2000s?
Yeah.
So I didn't. But yeah.
was there like a lot of the picking of the brain as far as acting, as far as the process, as far as anything along those lines?
Yeah, he I guess not so much picking the brain as like some certain questions about approaches to kind of, sometimes you have these marginal decisions to make in terms of career, and it really helps to be able to talk to somebody who's had some experience with that. He had a kind of long, slow burn with his career, actually. He came up in the theater. And also just about, I think, protecting yourself as an actor, being willing to say no, being willing to sort of stand up for yourself. I think a lot of times actors, you have an impulse to please. You don't want to make any enemies, and sometimes that ends up meaning that you that rather than pursue your own sort of sense of how things should be, you might end up deferring to a lot of what other people say. And it's okay, obviously, to make certain compromises, but also it's a good skill to have, to be able to to fight for what you think it should be, and to not have it be combative necessarily, but just to feel comfortable talking about the thing.
Right.
And then sometimes you do work with a director or something that you're not totally sure is going to take care of you, and you might need to take care of yourself. And so you might need to, sometimes a director might want you to do something, just try this thing one time. But if you know it's the thing that they want and that you don't want, if you give them the choice.
Yeah, that's right.
At the same time, but I remember some pieces of advice like that where, it wasn't dogmatic so much as practical.
Right.
And, but yeah, he's a wonderful actor and a wonderful human being. And that's another kind of just broad lesson. Like, I think a lot of actors, especially young actors, or maybe it's not this way anymore, but it was when I was a younger actor starting out, feel like they need to have a certain personality in the world in order to sort of be a legitimate kind of wild, whatever, show that they're either a bad boy or one of these kind of things.
Right.
And Sam is a really amazing counterexample to that, because he's a brilliant and really free actor, and just at the same time a kind of consummate gentleman.
Yeah.
So that's a good example that I feel like I was lucky to have at a pretty young age.
That's an awesome answer. The other thing I want to tell you is that I was not ready for the. So I'm going to just touch on 3 movies today, with just quickly.
Sure.
Preserve your sanity, but I didn't realize the depth of your filmography and how long you've been doing some of these wonderful projects. Like I wasn't ready for it. I knew your career, I knew who you are, I know a lot of things, but because I like to analyze and look at research, and I'm like, wow, like you've been doing really well for a long period of time as far as your choices and the stuff you're kind of. I like the fact that you don't play it safe. I like the fact that, you know what, hey, let me try this. Like there's actors that kind of play it safe. This is my genre, this is my thing. Let me dwell here for about a decade. And I like the fact that you didn't do that. There's something to be said for that, Lewis.
No, thanks. Yeah, I some part of it's just what the opportunities have been. But maybe some part of it also is coming from theater. I always thought that I would do all kinds of different things. I never thought of myself as wanting to be a type. I always basically thought of myself as a character actor. I like to live inside sort of, I don't know, what do you call it? Like another personality, do all kinds of different things, different voices, different. And then I've just been lucky to, I think, have opportunities to do a pretty good variety of roles. And to feel, you can feel when people want to tuck you into a particular corner, and then it's good to try and find an opportunity to get out of that corner.
Right. That's a great way of putting it. That's a great, and there's no other way to say this, but like, Lewis, you have this like amazing, like nostalgic old school look to you. Like you have this look that's so unique. And so, and I mean that, like, it's such an awkward thing to like say, but it's like, it comes across so beautifully and like vintage in your projects. Like it's like you were tailor made for the roles you're in. Yes, your ability is huge, but you have this, like, I don't know how else to put it. Like you have this like look that is just, you don't see much of it. Like there's shows and like movies where it's like one leading actor looks like the other leading actor, but you have a very like 50s, 60s, like old school, like leading man kind of appearance.
I always thought I was born too late, because it took me, the younger part of my career, it was a lot of theater, and it took me a while to to start getting cast in TV and film. I mean, not, I got cast in certain things, but when I was younger, and these things are just, it's just how the world changes. But there was a particular kind of, face that was popular, that was the leading man face of the time in like the early 2000s. It was just a different face, and that happens. That culture moves that way. It goes through these kind of cycles, and I was like, I want to be like Marcello Mastroianni or something. I'm, that kind of world, and some of the stuff I was, did get cast in on a relatively early basis would be more period stuff. People could see me, in the past, for example.
Right.
So.
I got to tell you, so I'm kind of going in order here, but I'm gonna go out of order for this. I really try to do my homework on my guests, because like if you're giving me your time, I want to make it worth every second.
Oh, thanks.
Every time like there was a post or research or something where the public was commenting, it was, that's Sally Bugs. Like it was just so funny how much you resonate. But I'm gonna get there.
Okay.
But so the one thing I really wanted to ask you was when it comes to Boardwalk Empire,
Yeah.
The Irishman, Killers of the Flower Moon, how do you develop such a strong rapport with Martin Scorsese? Is that by chance? Is that on purpose? Is that something you guys have developed over projects? How's that work, Louis?
I don't know. I think it's maybe just a simpatico. I mean, obviously, he's one of the people. I remember my dad taking me to see Goodfellas when it was in the theater, and that it was a big event because it was a movie that I knew he thought was a little bit, probably not okay, but it was something he wanted me to see.
Right.
And that was a big event, and I've been a fan of Marty's for forever. There's nothing unusual about that. He's one of the great filmmakers. I probably watched most or all of his movies, and many of them multiple times.
Yep.
So I have maybe just some sense of the world that he operates in, but also sort of the imaginary, sort of his imaginary landscape or something, the way that it happens. And so I don't know. So then, I auditioned for Boardwalk Empire. I auditioned for that show for 4 years before I got on to season 5.
Wow.
And came close with a couple different parts, and it was never quite the one. And then it was. But there was always this, I could tell that they kept bringing me back because there was something that they thought could work.
They saw something.
Yeah. And then with The Irishman, I got to say, I didn't get to see, the part that I had read the book, and the part that I got to read of the script was just the audition scene, and I kind of had a sense of what it might be. But I just went in and made a tape, and I made a couple choices that I thought were strong and might set me apart, and they just were the right ones. And then, we had a really good time filming that, and I think, I think that made it easy for Marty to ask me back, because, you find that you kind of share a language, or you share a sensibility, and he's somebody who's, the history of his movies, he always works with a lot of the same people over and over again, not just in front of the camera, but in terms of crew. He finds people who, share whatever the sort of sensibility, vision that he's trying to get at, I'm really grateful to be, to have had a couple opportunities to take part in what he's doing.
And I thought about him, and I thought about, when I was going to ask you this question, because I know he's not a huge fan of superhero movies. He's been very vocal about that, or shows. But here's the thing. If he watched The Penguin, there's no way on God's green earth he doesn't love this show. It's like, I feel I would love to hear his opinion watching that show from start to finish.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
And then telling anybody, well, I don't. In his defense, it is and it isn't a superhero movie, right? It's
yeah.
But either way, it's building hopefully to something. If it doesn't, it's a A+ standalone project. But I think he would absolutely have loved.
Well,
this.
Listen,
he has his
that show. So, this is not to say anything against the show at all. On the contrary, the palette of Penguin is not dissimilar from the palette of Boardwalk Empire, for example. Just in terms of color tone, there's more than one person. Kristen Milioti is also somebody who's a Scorsese world. She is obviously playing a very different kind of part, in Penguin, but yeah, there's some crossover there, and I think that part of being able to cast me, for example, in Penguin has to do with is largely thanks to Marty, because it's another, it's a gangster role, but it's a different, there's a tilt to it, and I think that's kind of the thing too with all the, at least the parts that I played for Marty, for sure. There's something a little, I don't know, off. It's there's a tilt. I don't know how else to describe it.
And I feel like Boardwalk Empire should have been mentioned in the same breath as The Sopranos. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying,
sure,
but I'm saying Boardwalk Empire. I remember on Sundays never missing. And I remember just being like, I couldn't wait for that show to pop on. This was obviously dropping episodes in bunches.
Yeah, right.
But it was just so great. There was so many great actors involved with that. And I'm going to tell you, that show, I think, showed the variety of a lot of actors, but also kind of showed that Steve Buscemi isn't like this joke that works for Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
It showed him as this guy that could carry this fantastic story, and I felt like had so much life in it. I don't know, if we're making an underrated shows list, that's up there, way up there.
And it's I think it had a big influence. Again, I don't know why. My instinct though is to focus on the visual aspect as well. Like, I had a big influence on how what is called prestige television looks. Sopranos obviously had a huge impact on all kinds of things in that realm, and Boardwalk Empire is in some ways picks up on that, but yeah, there's like a look that I feel like you see kind of everywhere now. The performances in that show, I mean, there's just some really fantastic performances all through. You said Buscemi, Michael Shannon's arc through that is monumental. Michael K. Williams, fantastic in it.
Louis, who's the actor? And I'm so embarrassed I forgot this. That had the face that was kind of like. Houston. What's his first name? Killed me. Well, you're gonna have to edit this while we look it up. I guess it's a Jack Houston. Is that right? Jack Houston. Mesmerizing. Like there's
fantastic.
There's so many characters like that though. It's like people are looking for great shows to watch and they're kind of making choices, but it's like, give this show a chance. It's so and it was so super. Good. It was super popular when it's not like this like unknown show, but
no, it's huge.
Huge.
It was huge at the time, and you got a full season with you got Michael Pitt at the beginning. You got Shea Wiggum. You got the full season with Bobby Cannavale. You got
he's
Paul,
terrifying.
You got Paul Sparks.
He's terrifying in that show, by the way.
Yeah,
Bobby is terrifying in that show.
Yeah, you got Dominic Lombardos. You got Stephen Graham giving one of the most amazing performances. His Capone is just that's definitely worth a revisit if anybody out there hasn't seen it in a while.
That is a rewatchable. So my last question before I hop into Killers of the Flower Moon. So there's so many shows out there, and I'm really trying to get on track with everything. Some have missed me, right?
Okay.
Billions was one of those, and everybody I talked to some people that knew I was speaking with you, and they just said, "Wait till you see him in Billions." That is not a show that I have seen yet.
Okay.
But before I am starting it tonight. Let me ask you, give me an idea of what Victor Mateo is like. Give me a heads up, Louis. Give me an idea of what I can expect from you. And I love doing things this way because I've never done it this way. Usually I've seen everything and I can break it down, but I'm so happy I'm starting this show this way.
So Victor's an interesting character because for me, that he was the longest arc that I lived with him for longer than I lived with any other
45 episodes or so. It's insane. Yeah.
So I came in the first season in episode 2, And that, to me, that's kind of the heart of Victor, is in that episode. I'm basically a hedge fund shark kid from Queens who's very smart, but also very street smart, kind of a jerk, probably played high school and maybe college football, is not afraid to paint outside the lines and take big risks, even with the law. And I'll just leave that out there. He starts out in a sort of like high cocky mode,
Right.
and
Okay.
at various times, I guess if you're going to watch the show, you'll find out he gets a little too close to the fire, but he has particular skills that always get called back in. He's not quite a safe cracker, but it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, we don't necessarily like that we have to use this guy's talents, but we have a job that he's really suited for, and that so we're going to call him in, kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And then that changes over time, and as the series goes on, he becomes a little bit, I guess, he shifts, he like mellows out a little bit, but I don't know.
That's awesome. No, I'm glad because like, we'll revisit whenever you're available one day down the road. But I'm super psyched because my brother-in-law says it's his favorite show, so I'm so psyched. Like,
a lot of people really love that show. It's very fun. It's kind of campy, and it's got a great kind of punchiness to it. It's got great. It's another show that's filled with really fantastic actors.
Yes,
from top to bottom, and also great writing. I mean, Brian Koppelman and David Levine, who created that show, like those guys are really sharp. And it's a world that's interesting. It's the real world, but not, but exaggerated and sort of,
I got you.
The peaks are higher and the valleys are lower, maybe.
I got you. How much fun did you have with Sally Bugs and the Irishman?
That was amazing. A lot of fun.
Yeah. The look alone is like, it's priceless. It's right out of Goodfellas. It's right out of Goodfellas.
Yeah, they really like, we got to do the whole thing, and it feels really good to have all the support around you to do the whole thing the way you'd like it to. And then also to be able to play, to be able to play with De Niro, Pacino, Jesse Plemons, and but to really play and not just make sure you kind of dot your I's and cross your T's, but those guys are all really playful, really game,
right?
And to know you got Scorsese there watching over you, and to know that he's got the best team in the world, making sure that everything happens the way it should, and it kind of makes you get to be really free. And Sally Bugs was a pretty freeing performance for me.
Yeah, pretty awesome one too. Is Kelsey Morrison the most frightening character you've ever played?
He's up there, and he's
diabolical. He's the most diabolical character I've seen in a while.
He's definitely got a dark interior. He's up there. I've played a couple pretty brutal characters. He's up there for sure.
How much development on your end with that? When you show up for something like that, right? So he's an actual person, right? Or was an actual person. Yeah. So how much of it is your research, your development versus what they're saying? Look, this is what we kind of want. Are they giving you, especially considering you have a great rapport with Martin? Is it what is that like for you? Is it How's
Yeah,
that formulated?
well, on some level, we did talk about, how he should look and feel and some of that stuff, and then there is all this not that much about him, but there's some documentary stuff about him, and just in terms of like things he said, things he did, what other people say about him actually said about the actual person.
Right.
They give you hints to things, and then there's what happens in the script, and that's really, for me, that's the most important thing, because I don't, I could, it's not a documentary. We're telling the story that's in the script. And to me, the things that we, the thing about dancing at the wedding just told me something about him that was, it's not that much in the script, but it was just a thing that I kind of thought that in a way the heart of him is there. Obviously he says these things that are horrible, but how does the person who says these horrible things also kind of dance with abandon, I guess, and be joyful?
Right.
Like he must, that to me, those are the things that need to be married,
Right.
And so that kind of was the kind of inroad for me, I guess you call it.
He's got this like mixture of things that's it's confusing, but then when you read about Tilly and what he wanted to do to those kids, it's like, good Lord, like, and
he's a dandy. He was a dandy of sorts, and that's a kind of it's not. I mean, I think it's a figure that still exists in certain ways, but I think that sort of a good time guy. He's been in the war. Who knows what he saw in the war? He's
right.
So
good
there's
point.
that. Who knows? Who knows? But the thing is, like, it didn't. It didn't crush him. He is also, I think it's a very American story. A lot of those guys come home and they're like, opportunity. What can we do? How can we win and win big? And, the lack of scruple. I mean, he's certainly in the movie, he's a borderline sociopath. I don't even know if we need to say borderline.
He's firmly in the neighborhood.
He's firmly in that neighborhood, and the stuff you hear him say, a lot of that is just verbatim. I mean, the court scene, that's just from the transcript. It's a slightly condensed version of just what he said.
Right. But to his defense, right, though, that entire movie is filled, like you mentioned, is filled with people looking to put morality in the back seat to fill their pockets.
Absolutely. I mean, he's maybe a bit more of a snake in certain sort of straightforward ways, a bit more devilish. But I think also the part that makes him feel more devilish is that he's otherwise pretty happy-go-lucky, and something about the happy-go-luckiness, it makes you feel like it makes you feel like you might not see this monster coming,
Right.
Whereas if he's just a mean old bad dude with a whatever, and nasty and growling and all that stuff, you'd be like, well, I know I need to steer clear of that. But if it's somebody who's who makes sure everybody has a good time, and that was the really sort of the real devil at the center of that movie. De Niro's character, he was a pillar of the community. Everybody loved him. He was a friend to the Osage for decades. And that's what's so chilling about the story, is the
way he turns, the way he's a puppet master a little bit, operates in the shadows, But your character, he's not stupid. Like Kelsey's, he's bright. Like, but whereas Leo's character Ernest is not bright.
Yes.
he's not bright. He kind of just goes along. He's along for the ride. He's just, he's there. But like, you're right. The war plays a big part, which is also Leo's character where he was.
Yeah. I think it does. And also, I don't have Leo has the Ernest has the conflict of his uncle's position, and he also has the conflict of being, I think, that my reading of it, he's genuinely in love with this woman, and yet he has to find a way to sort of, I don't know, justify to himself things that are not justifiable. And so I don't know if he's a dummy exactly, as he's just it's almost it seemed to me like almost like a self-protection mechanism, so he wouldn't have to face.
Right. No, that's fair. Yeah.
Because if he could know what he was doing, then he'd have to confront it, and it's not, you can't confront that. I don't know.
Yeah. Plemons is amazing. What a great.
He's fantastic.
Like the more you watch him, it's like we're watching him get like 100 times better each time he's acting. Like,
he's so good.
He's so amazing. Do you develop rapport on sets with a lot of these people that you carry forward, or is it once the project's over, you kind of just, you're friends, your acquaintances, and you kind of go on your way? How's that work on a set like that?
Well, so for the Irishman, my first day was working with Jesse, and Al Pacino, and Robert De Niro. So that was a pretty big first day, and we were just doing a wide shot. And what we were going to do is Jesse and I were in the car with Bob, and we were going to go pick up Al outside the diner.
Right.
And it's a wide shot. Jesse's driving, and we're sitting there, and we're like, Jesse and I both, this is a little while ago, and I think Jesse had just done, he was already pretty known at that point, but it was still, I think this was, we were both like, what are we doing here with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro?
Yeah.
But so that was a kind of, just a thing that we had together. It was the first day, and he's driving, and we were just, there was a lot of time just sitting in that car being like, can you believe this is happening?
Right.
And it was also, I think it made it easier for us when it came time to do the actual scene that happens in the car, which we shot much later. By then we had time to sort of just relax and figure things out and be like, oh, this is okay. We're just, some guys playing together, and
right.
We don't have to, we just have to have fun, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. I want to end talking about The Penguin, which I was just, it's got to be the show of the year. Like, it's just not because everybody says it, but because it's, again, I'm so happy HBO didn't just drop the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm happy I had to wait to watch it. I'm happy I had to, and I don't know. I think that's a better viewing experience. What's your take on that? The bundle drop versus the weekly drop?
I'll be honest, and you'll maybe sympathize with this as a father, although I think when the kids are younger, it's easier to watch more.
Yeah.
Because you can kind of, especially when they're little. But I don't typically have that much time to watch TV. And when the TV is on, usually my kids choose what to watch. But for me, I grew up watching television where you find out next week, and so that's fine. I don't have any problem being patient. I know that a lot of TV is written now to kind of, incite, be a compel you to binge watch or whatever. It's got all this kind of, I don't know, the hook at the end that makes you just kind of want to hit the next episode or something.
Yeah.
But I, especially if something's good, I like to draw it out. I don't don't want it to be done. I want to sort of sit with it for a little while. And if it's a really good episode, if you jump right into the next one, it just kind of, I find it, the couple times I've done that, I find I forget what, not what just happened, but it doesn't linger. And,
you don't have that time to process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think of a show like I don't know, like The Wire was this way, or where you're just like, there's so much to think about that if you just kind of, churn right through it, then I don't know. I think you probably miss a lot.
Sopranos too.
Yeah.
You need, because my wife watches. I stopped after a season. It wasn't a bad show. It's the one with Harrison Ford on Apple TV. He plays a psychiatrist, but like it's one after the other. It's like, I don't know. I feel like you're watching to scratch an itch. You're not watching to process. That's right. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. That's not for me. But I have to say, I didn't know how legendary Rex Calabrese was. Right? He's got a big backstory. Like, I'm a comic fan, but I'm not like I'm not up on like what happened. Because relatively early, like 2011, I think a lot of his backstory came out, and I'm like, I'm not that privileged.
I hate to say I don't know anything about it.
So I'll tell you this. This is what I learned today doing research, and I'm happy to be talking to you for a variety of reasons. But I learned this today. So I didn't know that your character Rex is the biological father of Catwoman. Isn't that's insane? And that's
I love that.
That's Louis. That's not like
that's from the comic book.
That is a fact. Everyone assumed it was who's the Falcone. It's not. And he is the biological father of Catwoman. I did not know that until we were talking today. I'm like, I cannot wait to show him this.
Wow, that's fantastic. I did not have any idea about that. That's cool.
Yeah, and some people think you're the father of Oz too, but I guess that's a story for
that. I don't know anything about that, but yeah. I do remember as we were doing as we were working on that, the relationship between Rex and, oh God, what was Dee Dee's character's name? What's the Penguin's mom's name?
Oh,
Dee Dee O'Connell's character.
Yeah. I'll get it. Keep talking. I'll get it.
But in any case, so as we were working, as Dee Dee and I were working on that, we were thinking like, well, what is the nature of this relationship? Do they, it seems totally plausible that maybe Rex comes by and they have a thing, and he could easily be the father of one of those kids. Francis. Yeah. Fran. That's right. Fran.
Yeah.
So it seemed, I don't know what the, comic book backstory is, but it seems totally plausible to me that, one or another of those kids were his, just because, where is the father? And he's the guy that comes around and checks in on him and this and that. So I don't know.
He's got a little touch of the Sonny from Bronx Tale to him.
That was very much a part of it. I don't know if it was Lauren's idea but that was definitely part of the approach to the character, because the feeling both of a kind of a guy who was like small time, but who in a child's eye was like the king of the world, like
seeing Mickey Mantle.
Exactly, like this guy is like, it's just we were talking about my childhood in Alaska. Like when you're a kid, your sense of proportion is very different than when you're an adult. And I think that was one of the ideas behind Rex, was that in the same way where the guys are looking at, Child's Palminteri's character, the kids are like fascinated by this guy who is so powerful in their mind, but in the adult world is probably, really small beans.
Right. Right.
And the other good thing about, that Chaz's performance in that was another thing that was, for me as a kid, a big deal. I watched that movie many times. And that was a natural, I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good place to go. I love his, part of the Rex's voice. It comes from Chaz because he has this sort of sultry, almost, I don't know, he has like it's a lovely voice that comes out of him. And it's not quite, there's the voices in the Penguin. There's a real harsh kind of Bronx voice that's beautiful, but Rex has that. It's like it has like a lighter something. It kind of floats a little bit, and that's totally borrowed from Chaz because it just seemed like a sweet way to kind of not separate him from the world, but to like elevate him a little bit, make him be a little bit more, I don't know, dreamy or something.
And as the viewer, we know what Rex is like probably when the kids aren't around, right? Like, right. But when the kids are there, he's like, giving them money, need a couple bucks. Like,
exactly.
He's the protector of the neighborhood.
Exactly.
But like, all I'm thinking about is your character reminded me of when Sonny's in the bar and he's talking to the bikers and he goes, "Well, now yous can't leave." So it's like that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking of in my head. But you played that part beautifully. But who really complimented? I love the scenes. Boy, Ryder Allen is a fantastic little actor.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, amazing.
He's got the walk down. He's got it's like a mini. Jesus.
When I see kids, I haven't worked that much with kids, but every time I do, and somebody's just so professional at 12 or however old that kid is, you're like, how can you do? Like, I think of myself at that age. Like,
me too. Oh my God,
I can't believe it. Yeah, no, that kid's fantastic. I mean, that was a absolute coup of casting too, because also, you can kind of see a bit of, if you took the makeup off of Colin Farrell, that he's got there's a little enough of a resemblance there. You can see, because you do everybody who's watching it knows who's, maybe not everybody, but who's under the makeup. And there is something to me in Ryder's face that's like, I don't know, it's like there's this, it's the sweetness before before everything goes
and then
dark.
He's got the limp, just like, I'm like, Jesus,
he did a really good job with that, didn't he?
Jesus. And it's funny because they just released a clip of Colin Farrell in the makeup, but he didn't have the accent, the gangster New York / accent. Yeah. He's got his normal accent, and I couldn't wrap my head around what was going on. I'm like, crazy. I have a few more questions for you, Louis. Thank you for all this time.
No trouble.
So the one thing I really I like about this, and I wish more people talk about it. You brought her name up earlier. Kristen is awesome as Colin is. I think this show is driven by Kristen. I think she is just it's about as good a performance through the series as I've seen in a long time. And I hope people are giving, and people are, but like, she is just amazing to say the least. Yeah,
she's very powerful. And I've known her for a long time. I think I first met Kristen doing a reading of a play in New York, and it was a she's a really accomplished musician as well. It was a play. It was called I can't remember the name of the play, but I remember the subtitle was A Play with Songs.
Yeah,
and I didn't have to sing, which is good. Probably. But at some point during that reading, she had to break into song, and it was a jaw drop moment. I was like, holy smokes. You can feel that the talent comes off her in a pretty impressive way. And you see it in this. She can really be a monster, but she has and she's not all that big. She reminded me a little bit like Edith Piaf. She's got she's little, and then this force can come out of her that you're like,
firiness for sure.
Yeah, and she, all the stuff she gets to do in this is, it's a lot of it's like it's actor meat, and if you like that stuff, you just want to dig into it because, you get to be crazy, nobody knows what you're thinking. You get to be sweet. She's also, of course, sexy. She's this and that. She's calling the shots, or is she? It's just a lot of fun stuff for her. It's not surprising to me that she just dug in 150%.
Yeah, she's mesmerizing.
Yeah.
And I would have loved your character in a few more episodes because you were killing it as well. And I want to make that known. So the one thing, have you seen the complete series? Have you finished it?
I have.
Help me understand, because I've been thinking about this for the last 2 weeks. Help me understand. So we know Oz is probably not all there, in the sense that the way he looks at things. He's not a dumb man. He's very calculated. He's not stupid by any means.
Yeah.
But what he did to Victor, I think, knocked the wind out of me. I was stunned when he did that. There's theories that Victor's not dead, and but whatever. I don't think that's the case. I was stunned when that went down. I could not believe it. I was just taken back. I don't know if that was in the script when you read it, but if you didn't, were you stunned by how that unfolded?
I guess it was not. I did not know. I did not know that was coming. I guess it didn't. I guess it surprised me, but I think it fit. Because Victor, to me, by the this is just, again, this is my reading. This isn't like inside information.
I got you.
But by the end, he was the thing, the person that Penguin cared about, and that he understood, because the whole series is about the problems that arise. I mean, for him,
right,
about the problems that arise because of him caring about somebody, his mom, and basically willing to make all kinds of, calculations that he might not otherwise have made in order to preserve this relationship, to prove himself to his mother. And I think the decision in that moment is not to have that vulnerability. And so it's a kind of gruesome expression of discipline on his part. And maybe that's maybe part of his, yes, he's a psychopath or something. But I think, to me, that's what it felt like. It felt like an expression of the need to discipline a part of himself that might get in the way of his ambitions.
No, that's perfect. My last question: why do you think Rex goes along with Fran's plan to kill Oz? Because that's something that was also a little bit shocking to me, because I thought no way would he have entertained that. Like, I thought no way. Why do you think he gives her that impression that, hey, we'll do this, restaurant? Why does he do that?
I think two things. I think the first thing is that he doesn't believe at first. I don't think that Oz could do something. He doesn't buy it, but she convinces him that that's what happened.
Right.
And I think he is repulsed by that.
Yeah.
And there's a thing. It's hard. I think of the modern sensibility, we have a little bit less of this, but 10 puppies come out. If one of them's got a bum leg, they used to just right into the bucket with you.
Right.
And I think it was, on the one hand, that, this little monster only gets to be a big monster. They don't grow up to be anything other than that.
That's right.
On the other hand, and Rex says this in the scene, if you can control it, if you can harness the thing that he has, you can work with it, but you can't fool yourself about what you're working with. And Rex basically says that, guys that he's had to work with, in his line of work can be, pretty messed up. But you have to, so in some ways it's a kind of a dark realism about it. And then I think the other thing is he cares about Fran.
Yeah.
And that's part of the, we wondered just how much does he, she's known the family for a long time. It's, something like that. It's a favor. And it's also, he sees how broken she is by the loss of her other children.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I think about it.
That's a great analogy because I remember that scene. It's an awesome scene. He's trying everything in his power to give her these are the options you're going to face, which is again part of being the head of the neighborhood and looking after the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like those people that work with wild animals. Sometimes they let their guard down, and it's like he's letting her know, like basically, like once that guard gets let down, please know that this is going to happen. Like this could happen. So yeah, man, wonderful job on this and other projects. Anything around the corner that you wanted to throw out there? Any future projects?
What's coming up? I mean, there's some great things coming up. I think, I'm not sure when it's coming out, but there's a great show I've been working on, for Apple TV called Government Cheese. I think that's going to be the title. I'm pretty sure it is.
Nice.
With David Oyelowo and a bunch of other great people. And that's going to be, I think, very fun.
He's amazing.
He's fantastic. And we had a lot of fun together. I've got I don't know when it's going to come out, but hopefully soon next year. Julian Schnabel has a new movie called In the Hand of Dante.
Okay.
Stars Oscar Isaac, and it has it's a star-studded cast, and it's a great, monstrous, crazy, beautiful movie. And
nice.
I'm very excited for that to get out into the world. But yeah, and then, I'm always trying to do this and that. Do
you ever get sick of work with the no names like Pacino and like David you mentioned and De Niro? Do you ever get sick of it? Yeah, just got to do it, right?
No, you don't need a name. You just gotta come and play. That's the thing. And I mean, I don't have a name. When I show up on set, nobody, I don't have a name, but you come.
See, I don't believe that. I
don't but really, but you come, there's a first time for everything, I guess.
Right. I get that.
When you show up, you come to play, and then everybody's like, oh yeah, that guy comes to play.
Yeah.
Let's play again.
You're an amazing actor, and I love watching your work. You're one of my favorites, and I really appreciate you taking time to give me this. And I hope you come back on down the road. This was so much fun for me, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah.